I was patrolling the university grounds as I did every Tuesday morning, but this time was different. As I walked towards Building B, something caught my eye through the window of a Subway restaurant. It was an armed robbery taking place right there in front of me. My first instinct was to run away and hide, but then I remembered my job. I am a security guard. The robber had spotted me standing there dressed in my bright reflective vest and pointed their gun directly at me. I thought that this would be my last day alive. Fear of death consumed every part of me, but then miraculously, one of the employees managed to distract the robber, who then turned away from me. Seizing this precious moment, I ran away and hid around the corner before calling for help. As I waited for backup to arrive, my mind raced with thoughts of what could have happened. I couldn't believe that I had almost lost my life on a routine patrol. My heart was pounding so hard that I could feel it in my throat. I tried to steady my breathing and focus on the task at hand. I needed to keep an eye on the Subway restaurant and make sure that no one else got hurt. The police officer arrived within 5 minutes, followed by a swarm of officers and a SWAT van. It was surreal. I stepped out of my hiding place and approached the officers, briefing them on what had just happened. They instructed me to stay back and took over the situation. I watched as they surrounded the restaurant and negotiated with the robber. The standoff between the robber and the police officers continued for what felt like forever. I could hear the officers shouting, demanding that the man drop his weapon and surrender, but he refused and instead held 8 hostages hostage as leverage. I was filled with fear. I had no idea how this would end. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the perpetrator agreed to let the hostages go but kept one employee trapped inside with him, at gunpoint. Then he demanded 2 12-inch subs from Subway. If it wasn't so terrifying, it would have been comical. Everyone watched in shock as the employee made him 2 sandwiches before nervously wriggling away and running out of the restaurant. With his meal in hand, the robber then locked the door behind him and sat down to enjoy his stolen lunch, with his back turned towards the police officers outside. This could not have been more infuriating for everyone involved. We were all on pins and needles wondering what he'd do next. The SWAT team eventually managed to break through the door using explosives and barged into Subway to apprehend him. The perpetrator was arrested without incident, but not before giving me a long, hard stare right in my eyes, as if thanking me for not intervening earlier. I've never been so scared on a security patrol before. Everything happened so quickly that it still feels like a blur even now when thinking about it today. My heart was racing as I stepped onto my next security patrol shift. The last incident had left me shaken, and the thought of encountering anything similar again had me on edge. I slowly began my rounds around the area, as usual, trying to pay attention to everything that moved. As I passed by a bike rack at the edge of town, something caught my eye. A young man was trying to pry a bicycle loose from its lock with a small tool. He must have sensed me watching him because he suddenly whipped out a huge knife and lunged towards me. Instinctively, I worriedly raised my hands in surrender and shouted, "That bike is yours. Just take it." The thief looked at me for a second before quickly wheeling away on the stolen bike without saying a word. I had won this round, but my hands were still trembling from the adrenaline rush. As soon as he disappeared from sight, I called the police to report what had just happened. They thanked me for being observant and assured me that they would look into it further. I trudged back home feeling both relieved and unnerved by the encounter. Incidents like these always leave a mark on my memory, reminding me why I chose this job in the first place.